The crowd came to watch a human fail. By sunset, they would forget why they ever laughed. The roar of 2 million voices shook the air beneath the crystal dome of the grand battle pit. Waves of sound rolled across tiers of black stone and silver metal that climbed nearly half a mile into the sky. Alien banners drifted above the arena like living flames. Giant holographic displays projected the faces of competitors for the spectators gathered from thousands of worlds. Warriors, champions, veterans of impossible trials. Every name drew cheers. Every face inspired admiration. Then another image appeared. The cheering stopped. Laughter replaced it. Mason Reed stood alone inside a transport platform descending toward the arena floor. The human looked painfully ordinary compared to the legends surrounding him. White skin, short brown hair, simple gray clothing issued by the arena administration. No armor, no ceremonial markings, no reputation worth mentioning. He was not a famous soldier, not a celebrated explorer, not even a professional competitor, just a former cargo ship engineer who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The massive screens displayed his information. Species, human. Homeworld, Earth. Combat ranking, unregistered. Arena experience, none. The laughter grew louder. Mason heard every second of it. He simply adjusted the sleeve of his jacket and looked upward. The enormous dome reflected artificial sunlight across the arena. Beyond the transparent crystal ceiling, stars shimmered against the darkness of space. For a moment, he ignored the crowd completely. The stars felt more honest. A voice echoed through the arena. Contestant Mason Reed of Earth enters the crown trials. More laughter followed. Several spectators openly placed bets on how quickly he would be eliminated. Mason stepped from the platform onto the arena floor. The surface beneath his boots felt warm. Thousands of tiny lights moved beneath transparent stone, forming patterns that shifted constantly. This was not merely an arena. It was something older, something important. High above the arena, Princess Lyra Vane watched from a royal observation balcony. Her royal blue skin glowed softly beneath silver light. Long silver-white hair rested across her shoulders. Her violet eyes followed the human as he entered the pit. An advisor standing beside her smiled faintly. The human appears calm. Lyra nodded. Most competitors are terrified during their first entrance. Perhaps he does not understand where he is. The advisor laughed quietly. Lyra did not. Something about the human seemed unusual. Not powerful. Not threatening. Simply different. While the other competitors entered the arena searching for rivals, Mason studied the architecture. While others acknowledged the crowd, Mason watched the moving lights beneath the floor. It was as if he cared less about victory than understanding the place itself. The arena announcer raised his voice. Let the crown trials begin. The audience erupted. Holographic images appeared throughout the stadium, displaying the history of past champions. Legendary warriors, brilliant tacticians, rulers who had once earned the right to wear the crown. Mason watched the images carefully. The further the presentation continued, the stranger his expression became. He was not intimidated. He looked curious. Then the final image appeared. A simple silver crown suspended above a field of stars. The crowd fell silent. Every competitor stared upward. The crown represented honor greater than wealth and authority greater than power. It could only be earned. Mason studied the image longer than anyone else. A faint realization appeared in his eyes. Something did not fit. Something hidden beneath the spectacle. As the opening ceremony concluded and competitors prepared for the first challenge, Mason looked toward the distant royal balcony. For a brief moment, his gaze met Princess Lyra's. Neither spoke. Neither smiled. Yet both shared the same unexpected thought. This place was not what it appeared to be. The arena floor shifted beneath Mason's feet less than 10 minutes after the opening ceremony ended. What had appeared to be solid, transparent stone suddenly separated into thousands of glowing geometric panels. Soft blue light rose through the gaps. The crowd quieted immediately. Whatever came next was important. Above the arena, enormous holographic rings rotated slowly beneath the crystal dome. Ancient symbols illuminated their surfaces, symbols older than most civilizations watching from the stands. Mason looked upward. Every detail confirmed the feeling growing inside him since he arrived. This was not a competition designed to find the strongest warrior. It was something else entirely. The arena announcer's voice echoed across the stadium. The first trial begins now. A massive display materialized above the center of the pit. Numbers appeared beside each contestant's image. 24 competitors remained. Representatives from powerful species throughout the galaxy stood ready for the challenge. The audience expected speed, compatibility, or physical dominance. Instead, the arena floor opened. Dozens of pathways emerged. Each route led toward a glowing platform visible in the distance. Some paths looked direct. Others twisted through complicated patterns. The crowd exchanged confused murmurs. Several contestants immediately sprinted toward the nearest route. Others hesitated. Mason remained still. Princess Lyra noticed it immediately from the royal balcony. Her advisors laughed softly. The human cannot even decide where to go. But Lyra continued watching. Something about his stillness felt deliberate. While the other competitors rushed forward, Mason studied the floor. Tiny lights moved beneath the transparent panels. At first glance, the motion appeared random. Then he noticed repetition. Cycles. Patterns. The lights shifted every 12 seconds. Certain routes brightened while others faded. The arena announcer finally revealed the objective. Reach the central platform before sunset. The crowd erupted. Competitors accelerated immediately. Yet Mason did not move. He crouched near the floor and watched the lights. The pathways continued changing. Some routes appeared shorter, but gradually redirected competitors farther away from the goal. Others looked inefficient, yet slowly aligned toward the center. A memory surfaced from his years repairing cargo vessels. Complex navigation systems often hid efficient routes beneath misleading surface information. The principle was identical. Beside him, a towering alien competitor laughed. "Human, if you wait any longer, the trial will end before you begin." Mason smiled politely. "Maybe." The warrior shook his head and disappeared down a brightly illuminated corridor. 20 minutes later, that same competitor appeared on a distant section of the arena farther from the objective than before. Mason finally stood. Then he chose one of the least popular routes in the entire arena. Spectators immediately began laughing again. The path looked terrible. It wound through dozens of unnecessary turns. Several contestants openly pointed toward the human while mocking his decision. Mason ignored them. Step by step, he followed the changing lights beneath the floor. Above him, the giant display tracked progress. Many competitors surged ahead quickly. Their icons approached the center much faster than his. Yet as time passed, something strange happened. The leaders stopped moving forward. Some routes looped unexpectedly. Others closed completely. Competitors who believed they were winning found themselves trapped in complicated detours. Meanwhile, Mason continued advancing steadily. Not quickly, consistently. Princess Lyra leaned forward in her seat. For the first time, genuine curiosity replaced amusement. The human was not guessing. He had discovered something hidden inside the trial. Hours later, as the artificial sun began descending toward the horizon, the arena display updated again. Gasps spread through the crowd. Mason Reed now occupied fourth place. The laughter vanished. The human looked toward the distant central platform, glowing beneath golden light. Then he noticed something even more important. The contestants who reached the goal first did not appear victorious. They looked confused. Because for some reason, the platform remained closed. And in that moment, Mason realized the first trial had never been about arriving first. It was about understanding why the path existed at all. The artificial sun hovered low above the arena when the final contestants reached the glowing platform. Thousands of spectators leaned forward in anticipation. 24 competitors had entered the first trial. Only 12 now stood within sight of the objective. Yet the platform remained sealed. Its silver surface reflected the fading light without revealing a single entrance. Confused murmurs spread through the crowd. Several competitors began examining the structure. Others demanded answers from the arena officials. Mason did neither. He stood quietly near the edge of the platform, watching the floor beneath it. The same moving lights he had followed throughout the day continued shifting through intricate patterns. They had not stopped when the contestants arrived. That detail bothered him. Princess Lyra observed from the royal balcony. Her attention no longer drifted toward the celebrated warriors. It remained fixed on the human. Earlier, she had expected him to disappear from the competition before sunset. Instead, he had become one of the few contestants who seemed genuinely interested in understanding the trial. An announcement echoed across the stadium. The first trial is complete. The crowd erupted in applause. Yet the platform remained closed. A second message followed. Only those who understand the purpose of the path may proceed. Silence instantly replaced the cheering. Confusion appeared across every competitor's face. Some examined their surroundings more carefully. Others argued among themselves. One towering warrior declared that reaching the platform first should be enough. Nothing happened. Another contestant attempted to interact with the structure directly. The silver surface remained unchanged. Mason looked down again. Then he smiled faintly. The answer had been visible the entire time. He stepped away from the platform. Several nearby competitors laughed. One of them pointed toward the sealed structure. The goal is here, human. Mason nodded politely. No, the lesson is here. Without explaining further, he walked back along the route he had taken earlier. The crowd watched in bewilderment. Giant displays followed his movement across the arena. Princess Lyra stood from her seat. Curiosity now outweighed skepticism. Mason stopped several yards away and examined a section of floor illuminated by flowing blue lights. For hours he had watched those patterns guide travelers through changing pathways. They had never truly pointed toward the platform. They pointed toward one another. Slowly, he began activating small illuminated markers embedded throughout the arena floor. One by one, they responded. A line of light stretched outward. Then another. The pattern expanded. Gasps spread through the audience. The pathways competitors had treated as obstacles suddenly combined into a single enormous symbol visible from above. The symbol displayed across the entire arena. Ancient, elegant, familiar. Historians in the audience immediately recognized it. It appeared on the crown itself. It appeared throughout the oldest records of the empire. The symbol represented unity, not victory. Unity. The arena announcer remained silent for several seconds before speaking. Contestant Mason Reed has identified the foundation principle of the crown trials. The silver platform immediately began opening. Soft golden light emerged from within. Spectators stared in disbelief. The human had not won by moving faster. He had won by asking a question no one else considered. Around him, even the strongest competitors seemed stunned. Princess Lyra felt an unexpected smile appear. For the first time since the trials began, she understood why the arena felt different from every other competition. It was never designed to reward strength alone. And somehow, among warriors, champions, and legends, the only person who noticed was a human engineer from Earth. As the golden light spread across the arena floor, the first real challenge of the crown trials finally revealed itself. The golden light spread across the arena floor like liquid sunlight. Every illuminated panel glowed with warm amber tones, transforming the battle pit into something that looked less like a competition and more like a sacred monument. The crowd remained unusually quiet. Moments earlier, they had watched a human solve a challenge that experienced champions failed to understand. The laughter was gone now. Curiosity had taken its place. The silver platform continued opening until a circular chamber became visible beneath it. At its center rested 12 crystalline spheres floating several feet above the ground. Each sphere emitted a different color: blue, green, gold, white, purple. The colors moved softly beneath transparent surfaces like living stars trapped inside glass. The arena announcer's voice echoed through the stadium. Welcome to the second trial. The remaining contestants gathered around the chamber. Giant holographic displays appeared overhead, allowing millions of spectators to observe every detail. Princess Lyra watched from the royal balcony with growing interest. She had spent years studying the history of the crown trials. Yet even she had never witnessed certain portions of the competition. Some traditions remained hidden until they unfolded naturally. The announcer continued. Each contestant may choose one sphere. Immediately, competitors stepped forward. Several selected spheres without hesitation. Others examined the choices more carefully. Mason remained where he was. The instructions sounded too simple. The crown trials never seemed to reward the obvious answer. One by one, contestants reached toward their chosen spheres. The moment contact occurred, holographic scenes appeared around them. Vast landscapes emerged from light. Entire worlds formed above the arena floor. Oceans, mountains, cities, forests. The spectators gasped. These were not illusions. They were simulations built from historical records, living moments preserved from real civilizations. The purpose of the trial quickly became clear. Each contestant faced a different scenario, a different decision, a different moral challenge. No weapons, no combat, only choices. One competitor was offered unlimited resources for his world at the expense of another struggling colony. Another faced a dilemma involving loyalty and truth. Every scenario tested character rather than strength. Mason watched carefully. The realization brought a faint smile to his face. The crown was searching for leaders, not conquerors. When only one sphere remained, he finally stepped forward. It glowed with a soft silver light. The moment his fingers touched its surface, the arena disappeared. Suddenly, he stood inside a quiet spaceport beneath a cloudy sky. Cargo vessels rested along distant landing pads. Workers moved through ordinary routines. The scene felt surprisingly familiar. It reminded him of Earth. A voice emerged from nowhere. "You command the final evacuation transport." Mason looked around. Hundreds of civilians waited nearby. Families, children, elderly travelers. Their expressions carried uncertainty. Then another message appeared. "Your vessel can carry only half of them." Silence followed. No additional instructions arrived. No clues. No hidden information. Just a difficult choice. Mason studied the crowd. Around the arena, millions of spectators watched the simulation unfold. Some expected him to calculate efficiency. Others expected him to prioritize survival statistics. Instead, Mason began asking questions. He spoke with the civilians. He learned their stories, their needs, their skills, their fears. Time passed. The simulation clock continued counting downward. Competitors in other trials rushed toward solutions. Mason listened. Princess Lyra watched the scene carefully. The human was not searching for the smartest answer. He was searching for the fairest one. And somehow that distinction felt important. As the countdown approached its final moments, Mason finally turned toward the waiting transport. The decision was ready. Yet the expression on his face suggested something unusual. He had discovered a possibility hidden inside the problem itself. And for the second time in the crown trials, the human appeared to see something nobody else had noticed. The countdown continued above the simulated spaceport. Large numbers floated in the cloudy sky, marking the final minutes before departure. Hundreds of civilians waited near the transport vessel. Anxiety spread through the crowd as families wondered who would receive a seat and who would remain behind. Around the arena, millions of spectators watched the scenario unfold. Most competitors facing similar challenges had already made their choices. Some selected individuals with the highest survival probability. Others prioritized political leaders, scientists, or military personnel. The solutions varied, but the logic remained familiar. Mason chose a different path. Instead of walking toward the transport, he climbed onto a cargo container near the center of the spaceport. His voice carried across the simulation. "Everyone, please listen." The civilians turned toward him. Confusion appeared on their faces. Mason activated a public display terminal and began organizing information. Skills, occupations, medical needs, family groups, transportation experience, engineering knowledge, agricultural training. The crowd exchanged uncertain looks. Princess Lyra watched carefully from the royal balcony. The human seemed less interested in choosing who would leave than in understanding who was standing before him. Several arena advisors shook their heads. "He is wasting time." One advisor pointed toward the countdown. "He will fail if he continues delaying." Yet Lyra remained silent. Something told her the human was building toward a solution. Minutes passed. Mason continued gathering information. Then he noticed something hidden within the simulation. The evacuation vessel contained one official pilot, one engineer, one navigation specialist. The civilians waiting nearby included retired technicians, mechanics, and transport operators. Individually, none seemed important. Together, they represented something else entirely. Mason smiled faintly. The scenario never stated there could only be one flight. The crowd inside the simulation watched as he began assigning tasks. Technicians inspected abandoned cargo shuttles resting near distant hangars. Mechanics examined maintenance equipment. Former pilots reviewed navigation systems. Families worked together. Strangers became teams. Spectators throughout the arena leaned forward in surprise. The human was not selecting passengers. He was organizing people. The countdown continued falling. 10 minutes. 9. 8. Other contestants had already completed their trials. Many watched Mason's simulation through shared displays. Curiosity replaced skepticism. The human was approaching the challenge differently than anyone else. Princess Lyra noticed something remarkable. The civilians inside the simulation no longer looked frightened. They looked hopeful. Even those who might not leave on the first transport remained engaged. They were participating in the solution rather than waiting for someone else to save them. 5 minutes remained. Cargo shuttles that initially appeared unusable slowly came online. Lights illuminated across landing pads. Systems activated. Additional transport capacity emerged. Gasps spread through the audience. Mason had discovered a possibility hidden inside the scenario itself. The challenge never asked who deserved rescue. It asked whether leadership could create opportunities where none seemed to exist. The final countdown reached 0. The simulation froze. Silence filled the arena. Then golden lights swept through the spaceport. The scene dissolved. Mason found himself standing once more inside the battle pit. Around him, the remaining contestants stared with open surprise. Above the arena, a new message appeared across the giant displays. Contestant Mason Reed achieved maximum outcome. Cooperation created greater survival than selection. The crowd remained silent for several seconds. Then applause began. Not thunderous applause. Respectful applause. The kind offered when someone reveals an answer that feels obvious only after it has been seen. Mason looked up toward the royal balcony. For the first time, Princess Lyra offered a small nod of acknowledgement. The human returned the gesture politely. Neither spoke, yet both understood something had changed. Mason was no longer the contestant everyone expected to fail. And somewhere deep within the ancient machinery of the crown trials, doors that had remained closed for generations were beginning to open. The atmosphere inside the grand battle pit felt different the next morning. The crowd was just as large. The crystal dome still shimmered beneath artificial sunlight. The royal banners still drifted high above the arena. Yet something had changed. When Mason Reed stepped onto the arena floor, nobody laughed. Millions of spectators watched him with genuine curiosity. Some even applauded. The human who had entered as a joke had become the most discussed contestant in the competition. Mason seemed unaware of the attention. He walked across the illuminated floor with the same calm expression he had worn since the first day. High above the arena, Princess Lyra observed from the royal balcony. One of her advisors activated a holographic report. Public sentiment has shifted dramatically. Lyra glanced toward the display. How dramatically? 3 days ago, fewer than 2% of viewers believed the human would survive the preliminary rounds. The advisor smiled. Now he is among the most popular contestants in the entire tournament. Lyra looked back toward the arena. Popularity did not impress her. Understanding did. And she was beginning to suspect that Mason understood the purpose of the crown trials better than many lifelong citizens of the empire. A deep tone echoed through the stadium. The third trial was about to begin. The arena floor separated once again. Massive sections rotated silently beneath the contestants. 12 remaining competitors gathered near the center, while spectators watched from every corner of the galaxy. Then a series of elevated platforms rose from below. Each platform supported a single transparent structure. Inside every structure stood another contestant. At first, the scene confused the audience. Then the rules appeared across the giant displays. Each competitor would receive an opportunity, not to advance themselves, to assist another participant. The crowd exchanged surprised murmurs. This was unusual. Most competitions rewarded personal achievement. The crown trials appeared determined to test something different. Contestants approached their assigned stations. Mason studied the transparent structure in front of him. Inside stood the same towering alien warrior who had mocked him during the first trial. The warrior immediately recognized him. Embarrassment crossed his face. During previous rounds, he had repeatedly dismissed the human as irrelevant. Now circumstances placed his future partly in Mason's hands. A glowing console activated. Information appeared across the display. The warrior faced a complex challenge involving resource distribution, logistics, and strategic planning. Success remained possible, but only if he received guidance from someone outside the simulation. The audience waited eagerly. Some expected Mason to ignore him. Others expected quiet revenge. After all, many contestants had ridiculed the human openly. The warrior lowered his eyes. You do not owe me anything. Mason studied the information carefully. Then he smiled. Good thing this is not about what I owe. The response surprised everyone. For the next hour, Mason worked through the problem alongside the warrior. He shared observations, asked questions, offered ideas. Never once did he attempt to make himself look superior. He simply helped. Across the arena, other competitors behaved differently. Several focused on maximizing their own future standing. Others offered minimal assistance. Some barely participated at all. Mason never seemed concerned about rankings. He concentrated entirely on helping another contestant succeed. When the trial concluded, results appeared across the giant displays. The warrior achieved one of the highest scores of the round. Shock spread through the audience. The same competitor who once laughed at the human now crossed the arena and stopped directly in front of him. Millions watched in silence. Slowly, the towering alien placed a hand across his chest, the traditional gesture of deep respect within his culture. Thank you, Mason Reed. The human nodded politely. Nothing more. No speech. No celebration. Yet the moment resonated throughout the stadium. Because for the first time, spectators realized why the human kept succeeding. While others searched for ways to win the crown, Mason kept finding ways to help people. And somewhere within the ancient intelligence guiding the trials, that difference seemed to matter more than anyone had expected. Only 6 contestants remained. The announcement echoed beneath the crystal dome just as the artificial sunrise illuminated the arena in shades of gold and silver. Millions of spectators stood to their feet. The crown trials had reached a stage few competitors ever witnessed. Every participant still standing had demonstrated intelligence, discipline, and resilience. Yet one name dominated every conversation throughout the empire. Mason Reed. Not because he was the strongest, not because he was the fastest, because nobody could explain how a human engineer kept solving challenges that legendary champions failed to understand. The arena floor transformed once again. This time, no pathways appeared. No simulations emerged. No holographic puzzles floated above the contestants. Instead, the center of the battle pit opened to reveal a massive circular chamber beneath transparent crystal. Ancient machinery rotated slowly below. Silver light flowed through enormous rings covered in symbols older than the empire itself. Even Princess Lyra had never seen this section of the trials activated. Advisors exchanged uneasy glances. Historical records describing this stage were incomplete. The arena announcer's voice carried an unfamiliar tone, almost reverent. The 4th trial has not been attempted in 172 years. Silence spread through the crowd. The 6 contestants stepped forward. Mason studied the structure below. The moving rings reminded him of an enormous clock. Not one designed to measure time. One designed to reveal something hidden. A new display appeared above the arena. Ancient text materialized beside a simple question. What is the purpose of the crown? The audience looked confused. The contestants looked even more confused. No instructions followed. No options appeared. The question remained suspended above the arena. One by one, competitors entered the chamber below. Each approached a central platform where they were invited to answer. Some spoke about leadership. Others described power, responsibility, authority, service. Their answers were intelligent, thoughtful, logical. Yet after each response, the ancient machinery remained unchanged. The symbols continued rotating. The hidden mechanism remained dormant. Finally, Mason's turn arrived. He stepped into the center of the chamber while millions watched. The silence felt enormous. The question still hovered above him. What is the purpose of the crown? Mason looked upward. Then he looked around the arena. He studied the spectators, the contestants, the ancient symbols carved into the machinery. Memories from the previous trials surfaced in his mind. The changing pathways, the evacuation challenge, the cooperation trial. Every lesson pointed toward the same truth. Slowly he spoke. The crown exists to remind leaders that the people are more important than the leader. Silence followed. No dramatic music. No celebration. Just quiet. Then something happened. The machinery stopped. Every rotating ring froze simultaneously. Ancient symbols illuminated throughout the chamber. Golden light surged through the structure. Gasps spread across the stadium. Historians rose from their seats. Advisors stared at their displays in disbelief. The mechanism had responded. Above the arena, new text appeared. The answer is accepted. The crowd erupted. Yet before the noise could fully spread, another message appeared. One that nobody expected. Final archive access granted. Princess Lyra felt her pulse quicken. The final archive was not part of the public trials. According to legend, it contained the original purpose of the crown itself. For centuries, it had remained sealed. Slowly, a hidden chamber emerged from beneath the arena floor. Silver doors opened for the first time in generations. Soft light spilled across the battle pit. The remaining contestants stared toward the entrance. Yet Mason noticed something unusual. The doors did not open toward all 6 participants. They opened directly toward him. And as ancient light reflected across the arena, Princess Lyra realized the human had just unlocked a secret that even emperors were never permitted to see. The ancient doors remained open. Soft silver light poured from the hidden chamber beneath the arena, illuminating the faces of millions of spectators. No one spoke. Not the contestants. Not the advisors. Not even the arena announcer. The silence carried a weight that felt older than the empire itself. Mason stood at the entrance and looked inward. Beyond the doors stretched a narrow corridor lined with crystalline walls. Tiny lights drifted through the transparent surfaces like captured stars. The passage seemed impossibly old, yet perfectly preserved. Princess Lyra left the royal balcony before protocol could stop her. For the first time in her life, curiosity outweighed ceremony. She descended toward the arena floor while officials hurried behind her. By the time she arrived, Mason was still standing at the threshold. "You have not entered," she said. Mason glanced toward the chamber. "The doors opened for me." Lyra nodded. "They did. That does not mean I should walk in alone." The response surprised her. Most competitors would have rushed forward without hesitation. The final archive represented knowledge, prestige, and history beyond imagination. Yet the human seemed concerned about something else entirely. Moments later, the remaining contestants approached. The towering warrior whom Mason had helped during the previous trial stopped beside him. Others followed. Different species, different worlds, former rivals. No one appeared hostile anymore. The arena announcer finally spoke. "Contestant Mason Reed has earned access to the final archive." Applause erupted across the stadium. Then something unexpected happened. Mason stepped away from the entrance. The applause gradually faded. "I have a question," he said. The arena fell silent again. If the crown exists to serve people, why would its greatest secret belong to only one person? No one answered immediately. Historians exchanged uncertain glances. Advisors looked toward ancient records. Princess Lyra stared at the human. The question seemed simple, yet it struck directly at the heart of everything the trials claimed to represent. Mason looked toward the contestants standing beside him. "Every challenge taught us something together." He pointed toward the open doorway. "Then whatever is inside should belong to all of us." A wave of murmurs spread through the audience. Some spectators nodded. Others looked stunned. The final archive had remained exclusive for centuries. Access itself was considered the ultimate reward. Yet the human was refusing exclusivity. He was sharing it. Deep within the arena, ancient machinery activated once more. Golden symbols appeared along the corridor walls. Soft light flowed through the crystal surfaces. Then a new message materialized above the entrance. "Final principle confirmed." The crowd gasped. Historians rose to their feet. No such message existed in surviving records. Princess Lyra felt her heart race. The trials were responding again. Not to success, to character. The silver corridor expanded. What had been a narrow passage widened into a grand hall capable of welcoming everyone. The hidden architecture seemed to reshape itself around Mason's decision. Slowly, the contestants entered together. Lyra walked beside Mason. At the end of the hall stood a single pedestal supporting the crown. It was smaller than most expected. Simple silver metal. No jewels. No extravagant decoration. Above it floated the final inscription left by the founders of the trials. "Leadership begins when ambition ends." Silence filled the chamber. Every contestant read the words. Every spectator saw them displayed throughout the arena. Mason looked at the crown for several seconds. Then he smiled. Not because he wanted it. Because he finally understood it. The trials had never searched for the strongest competitor. They had searched for the first person willing to place the crown beneath the people it was meant to serve. And standing beside Princess Lyra beneath ancient Starlight, Mason realized the final decision was still waiting to be made. The final decision arrived without fanfare. No alarm sounded. No dramatic announcement echoed through the grand battle pit. The crown rested quietly upon its pedestal beneath the ancient light of the final archive. Around it stood the remaining contestants, Princess Lyra, scholars, advisors, and millions of spectators watching from every corner of the galaxy. The silence felt sacred. Mason Reed looked at the silver crown for a long moment. It appeared almost ordinary now. After everything he had experienced, that felt appropriate. The greatest symbols rarely needed decoration. They carried meaning instead. A new message appeared above the pedestal. Final selection authorized. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then the arena announcer spoke with unusual respect. Contestant Mason Reed may now claim the crown. The crowd erupted. Applause thundered through the crystal dome. Banners shimmered beneath the artificial sky. Across countless worlds, viewers stood from their seats. Yet Mason remained exactly where he was. Princess Lyra watched him carefully. She already knew that expression. It was the same look he wore whenever he discovered something hidden beneath the obvious answer. Mason stepped forward at last. The applause grew louder. He stopped beside the pedestal and gently placed a hand upon its edge. Then he looked toward the other finalists. The towering warriors stood there. So did the strategist who had solved impossible logistical challenges. So did the diplomat who united rival factions during her trial. Every contestant had contributed something valuable. Every contestant had grown. Mason slowly turned toward the audience. I think the trials made a mistake. The stadium became silent. Advisors exchanged alarmed looks. Historians stared at their displays. Princess Lyra felt her breath catch. Mason smiled faintly. Not because the wrong person reached this point. He looked around the chamber. Because the crown was never earned by one person. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Mason continued. Every lesson inside these trials pointed toward the same truth. Progress happens together. Leadership happens together. Survival happens together. He glanced toward the finalists beside him. Everything I achieved here was possible because other people helped me learn what I could not see alone. The silence deepened. Then something extraordinary happened. The crown lifted from the pedestal by itself. Golden light flowed through the chamber. Ancient symbols illuminated across every wall of the final archive. The intelligence guiding the trials was responding once again. New words appeared above the floating crown. Understanding confirmed. The crowd gasped. Princess Lyra felt tears gathering unexpectedly in her eyes. For generations, rulers believed the trials selected the strongest candidate. Today the trials revealed their true purpose. The crown drifted forward until it hovered directly above Mason. Then it divided. Not physically, symbolically. Streams of silver light extended outward, connecting every finalist standing within the chamber. The message changed one final time. Leadership is not possession. Leadership is service. The stadium exploded with applause unlike anything heard during the trials. Millions of beings from hundreds of civilizations rose to their feet. Some cheered. Some cried. Some simply watched in silence. Mason looked upward as silver light reflected across the crystal dome. Beside him, Princess Lyra smiled through tears she no longer tried to hide. In that moment, the human who entered the arena as a joke became something far greater than a champion. He became proof that strength could inspire respect, but character could transform an entire civilization. Far above the arena, stars shimmered beyond the transparent dome. Their reflections danced across the silver crown and across the eyes of those who witnessed history. And for the first time in generations, the Empire remembered why the crown had been created at all.